I really like drawing in Procreate on the iPad. It's intuitive, easy to use, it feels natural, and some of the tools make my life so much easier. The problem is that I prefer working with vector graphics than raster graphics, and Procreate isn't for vectors. Vectors are scalable, so you can increase or decrease their size without losing quality. You can also manipulate colors precisely and easily, and you can generally have much more control over vector graphics. I am dead set on getting the best of both worlds though, so I'm going to show you how. Tracing in Illustrator takes a raster image and approximates points so you can turn pixels into paths or raster graphics into vector graphics. It takes a lot of work out of converting drawn images into working vectors, and it's really easy to do. First, you need to open your raster image in Illustrator. By default, it should already be prompting you to trace your image in this toolbar, but I prefer to use the image trace panel because it gives you more control over the conversion process. Here, you can select the option that makes the most sense for what you're trying to accomplish. In my case, I want to use a limited color palette, so I select that option and it will keep my colors to below 30. You can make adjustments here depending on how detailed you want the conversion to be, but keep in mind that the more points or paths there are, the more cumbersome the graphic will be. I usually leave it to default settings because it's a happy medium. You have the option to either create cutout paths or stacked paths. If you go with stacked paths, you'll have layers of paths that stack over each other to create the image you want. But if you go with cutout paths, you have the option to ignore white. I've seen a lot of videos that briefly show how to trace an image that end with separating the white background from the rest of the graphic and doing some cleanup along those lines. And every time I want to say, you don't have to do that, you can check a box. The only time you might not want to use that option is if you're using a true white in your piece, because it might make those parts transparent instead. Once you've made your adjustments, you can check preview to see if it's going to turn out the way you like. Be patient, this tends to take a while for larger images or complex images. You can see here my computer is not going to like this, but it'll live. If it looks good, go ahead and click Expand, and you've got your vector graphic. If you only made one asset, you're pretty much done, but I like to draw multiple assets on a canvas, so the problem here is that they're all grouped together and I can't manipulate them easily. All I have to do at this point is right-click and ungroup them. Then I will select the individual pieces I do want grouped and hit Ctrl-G to group them together. Now I can move my individual assets around and manipulate them individually.